I haven't.
Good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon.
There we go.
So you guys thought you were going to get rid of me, but Mrs. Marshall asked me to do the introduction for this whole class because she's not familiar with what I've been doing. So I've been doing a lot of exercises and a lot of things with the class. So the first thing I want to do is share with you something called the power of words. Our words have tremendous power and are similar to seeds. By speaking them aloud, they are planted in our subconscious minds. They take root, they grow, and they produce fruit of the same kind. Whether we speak positive or negative words, we will reap exactly what we sow. That's why we need to be extremely careful what we think and what we say. The Bible compares the tongue to the small rudder of a huge ship, which controls the ship's direction. Similarly, your tongue will control the direction of your life. You create an environment for either good or evil with your words, and if you're always murmuring, complaining, and talking about how bad life is treating you, you're going to live a pretty miserable world. Use your words to change negative situations and fill them with life.
Yeah.
I've had students come in this class saying, "Oh, I just don't know if I can pass that national board. I don't know." And they come in with an attitude that's a problem. Speaking words of doubt and fear. So from now on, for the next 6 months, I need you guys to have that attitude of, I can do this, I'm going to pass. Whether it's taking a Post-it note and reminding yourself every day on your mirror, I will pass my national board, and make sure that you keep talking to yourself, because words are very, very powerful in how you say or what you do. So I'm going to read you something. It's called attitude. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstance, than finances, than failures, than success, than what other people think or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break an organization, a school, or a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. But the only thing we can do is play the string we have, and that is our attitude. I'm convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. So it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. So what is your attitude of National Board? Does it scare you?
No.
Some people are scared. We've had in the past people that we have not passed. I have a student that I'm taking long time ago that has never passed board and taken it multiple times. So, what is your attitude? What is your thoughts? What are your words? If you need to, put that Post-it note up there and say, I will pass my national board. Think and grow. And use that as a propeller for where you're going to be. Because it starts with your attitude. Yeah, you have to put in the work. You can't just say, oh yeah, I think I'm going to pass my national board. No, you have to put in the work. Now, how many of you have been around little kids who have thrown themselves on the floor and said, I can't? Okay? I've had kids like that. I can't tie my shoe. Well, you know what? They're right. Because they already made up in their mind they can't do it. So I need you to make up in your mind that you can do it. You can pass that national board. It's going to take work. It's going to take a lot of it. And you need to start today. It seems seems like 6 months is far away, but you need to start studying now. And we're going to help facilitate that. I can't make you do some of these things. I can't make you put delayed gratification, like, oh, I think I should go to the party instead of studying. You're in charge of that. You're in charge of your life, and you need to make sure that you are putting the effort in. How much time are you going to study? And set a goal. Because you never reach something if you don't set a goal. So in your head, what is that goal? I'm going to study 5 hours a week. Is it 3 hours? Is it 2? I don't know, but you have to set that goal for yourself. And then I need you to choose an accountability partner. Who's that going to be? Is that going to be the person sitting next to you or across from you or in front of you or behind you? Is that a spouse? Is that a boyfriend? Is that your parents? A sibling? I don't know, but find somebody that you can be accountable to. And that may be me, that may be Ms. Marshall, it may be somebody, but you need to be accountable to somebody. And help each other. And encourage each other. And study together if you need to. And push each other to be the best you can be. I don't want to go through what we've done in the past. We've had students not pass. I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to do that. We've had students not pass the first time or the second time or even the third time. I don't want to do that. I want you guys to pass the first time that you've done. Yes, ma'am.
Didn't we have like a really high, like 100% pass rate for a while? That's what I...
We did for a very, 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 very long time, but that's
Until like this year.
till like this year. So, I'm going to tell you this. You guys can do it. I think everybody in here is capable. You have to decide whether you want to do that or not and how much effort you're going to put into it. Okay? So, let's start with a word of prayer. Father God, I thank you for this class. I thank you for the gifts that they bring to the school. And I pray now that you would, that we would lift them up, that you will help them to be able to focus over the next 6 months, that you would remind them to study and help them to set goals and to be able to accomplish all that they set out to do. I pray that you will be our class time today. There's a lot of information that we're going to share. I pray that you will help them to be able to take that all in, set some goals, and start this journey. We pray in your name. Okay. So, national boards. What is it? What is it? The national board exam. Now, the new board exam criteria, the guide is not out, so I'm using last year's, but it doesn't usually change very much. So it's a comprehensive test of 350 multiple choice questions. There's 2 parts, a component A and a component B. The component A has 200 standalone questions. In other words, that might be some basic science questions, that might be asking you what nerve is this, what connects to that, what foramen is that. It might be those types of questions. Component B is case studies. There's 150 questions in the case study section. So in component A of the 200 standalone questions, they're going to ask you questions on basic science, provision of dental hygiene care, community and research principles, and I'm going to break down each section now. Of those sections, the dental hygiene practice, there's 60 questions. About 16 are anatomical science, physiology 5, biochemistry 6, micro and immuno 10, pathology 13, pharmacology 10. So where on this list are you going to spend the majority of your time? Exactly. So pathology, pharmacology, and anatomical science. Okay. Does it mean you can skip the others? No, we want to study it all, but spending the time here. In the section on provisional of clinical hygiene services, there's 116 questions. 17 of them are assessing patient characteristics, so they might be blood pressure, vitals, any of those types of things. Obtaining and interpreting radiographs, there's 13. Planning and managing dental hygiene care, that's 34. That's your ADPI, remember that stuff? Performing periodontal procedures might be scaling and root planing, placing antibiotic, soft tissue curettage, using preventative agents is 9. So what would be a preventative agent? Fluoride. Okay, fluoride. Preventative agent would be a fluoride. Providing supportive treatment services. Okay, 7. And professional responsibility. 18. Typically, I'm going to tell you, we have scored lower on ethics and community. Those are the 2 areas we tend to score lower on. And management of dental hygiene care. So, community health and research principles, there's 24 questions. Community's huge on the exam. I think we don't study it hard enough, because if you think, oh, I'm going to go study head and neck more than I'm going to study community, I wouldn't do that. I would focus more on this. So promoting health and preventing disease within groups. And I think you guys are learning some of this community stuff, right? Right now. Participating in community programs. Analyzing scientific literature, statistical concepts, so they might ask you mean, median, mode, those types of things. And applying research results. Any questions on component A, the standalone questions? And this is posted for you, so you can be able to look at it and see it and break it down. Component B is the case studies section. There's 150 questions associated with anywhere between 12 and 15 dental hygiene cases. There'll be adult, there'll be children. They're going to give you a chart, a health history, x-rays, and photos. And they're going to give you characteristics like the vitals, kind of like the cases that you guys did for my class for a junior seminar. They're going to give you radiographs. They're going to give you planning management care. They're going to ask you all of these things they're going to provide, but they'll ask you questions on these types of things. So they might have a question that the patient's diabetic, and they might ask you about the diabetes and what you can treat, what's not treatable, where's your A1C, what's treatable. They might have somebody that has taken a blood thinner, and when you can treat, when you can't. Questions?
Is this like our junior clinical competency?
Exactly, what you just had for OSCEs. Okay, only we'll have a senior OSCE and it'll be more complicated yet. So similar to that, but yes, you're right. So, passing the exam. A score of 75 is required for you to pass that exam. Now, that's not a raw score, but a scaled score. So, I've had a number of students come and say, I got a 74 on this. Should I appeal? Well, no, because it's not one question. It's probably about 10 to 15 questions that you didn't pass it by, even though it's a score of 74. So, this is scaled score. Usually an average raw score of about 65 converts to about 80 to 85. Typically less than 10% of all first-time candidates score below 75. That means 90% pass. So we're looking at who passes and not who didn't. So here's some question breakdowns. Of the 60 questions, you're going to get head and neck, oral anatomy, morphology. So they might ask you, tooth number 12 has what? And it might list mesial crown and root depression, mesial marginal ridge groove, this cusp is that, or whatever else, and then you should be able to identify which tooth. If they list that and then list a bunch of teeth there. Yes? It's almost 8 hours. Yeah, you get all day. There's not many that use all day, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I heard some people took them 3 hours.
Yeah.
So you can just take it and leave?
Yep.
So people are sitting there for 8 hours?
So. And you get a break. You get breaks. But we'll talk more about that when I get to that section. So I'm going to just kind of buzz through this. I highlighted the key words for the topics that are in here and about how many questions. And I just took this from the candidate guide. You can go ahead and look at the candidate guide yourself. These clinical dental hygiene services, the 116. So medical and dental history, your head and neck, your periodontal evaluation, oral evaluation, occlusion, and other general stuff, and then radiographs. Radiology is pretty big on this. And I'm going to tell you the radiographs aren't always clear. So then you're going to have your physics part, and you're going to have the interpretation part of radiology. And then the principles about measuring protection, whether you're using a LARA, what types of things. Techniques, they'll be asking you what is the error in this radiograph. Like, is it too far anterior or too far posterior, or vertical or horizontal change. Those types of things. And any anomalies that you might see on there. So they may show you an enamel pearl and ask you in the radiograph, what is this? Or what is the radiographic development issue on it? And it might be not too long enough in a fixer or whatever, even though you guys are taking digital. They have still been using old methods. It takes a while to change. And then infection control, so knowing sterilization time, like 121C for 15 minutes at 15 pounds of pressure. It's just stuff like that that you have to memorize and know. Emergency situations, if you have a patient that has angina and you're going to give them, what would you give them?
Nitroglycerin.
Okay, nitroglycerin, but how much can you give and for how long and how far apart? So all of those things you need to know in detail. So, and planning and individualized instruction, oral hygiene instruction, what dental aid would be best used for this type of patient. You'll have radiographs and photos, maybe an inner dental brush, maybe a perio aid, those types of questions. Nutrition, counseling, caries, cariology, all of that stuff. And then medically compromised patients, and treatment planning, diagnosis, case presentation, all of that stuff. Periodontal debridement, chemotherapeutic stuff, implant care, fluorides, sealants, preventative agents, ethical dilemmas, etc. Impressions, dental materials, and community. Here's your community stuff here. So, what's it sound like? Everything you've been doing, correct? But it's all in one test. So instead of thinking of your classes as, oh, I took that final exam, I don't need to know that anymore. Yeah, you do. Okay. All right, so what are the questions going to look like? They consist of a stem, like a question, or an incomplete statement, and they're going to use a lot of keywords, like best, most, first, not, except, and least. That's probably where people make the biggest mistake on these tests. Not that they don't know the information, because oftentimes there's two correct answers, but one is better than the other one. And so if you could get down to those two and choose the right one, where the critical thinking comes in, that's where that issue comes best. And so, two correct, well, yeah, this is right, but this is better. Usually it's 3 to 5 answers, but one is the best. So, for example, here, the sensation of touch, pain, pressure, or temperature is determined by what, and they'll list out some answers, and you need to choose. Or they communicate a problem. Which of the following is innervated by the phrenic nerve? And they'll list out a bunch there. Or they'll have some negative, like which of the following is affected by saliva, except one, which is the exception. So you might think, oh, I know that, but you've chosen the correct one instead of the exception. There's also paired true false. A lot of the quiz questions, I think, are you doing quizzes? She says you'll have them. A lot of my quizzes went, I think I'm doing this class next quarter.
Yes.
A lot of my quiz questions are going to be both statements are true, both statements are false. The first is true, the second is false, and reversed. So protection from excessive exposure to radiation is blah, blah, blah. The statement is true, false. Other things they'll do, especially for community, is they'll give you a little case study or a short scenario, and then they'll ask like 5 questions from that little scenario. And that's mostly related to community and research principles. And it's kind of like, and they'll use that also in the case base. So in the case base, we talked about what you're going to get. You're going to get social history, pharmacological history, dental, medical, and FMX PAN in your perio charting. And then ask questions. I didn't double check this because the new candidate guide isn't out, but last year the fee was $430 to apply for the exam. So guys, this isn't a test you want to go, oh, well, if I don't pass, I can take it again. Yeah, that's expensive. Okay. Once you get your official results, when you apply, you can have the results sent to 3 different jurisprudence areas. Like, I want to send one to Rev, I want to send one to NERV or credits or wherever, and what exam you think you might be taking. And then the school gets a copy of the results.
Well, jurisdictions and actually mean states.
Okay, state, sorry, not your, okay, sorry, the state you want to practice in. So this is how the test goes. You can take an optional tutorial on how to work everything on the computer. It's computer-based. You're going to then do session 1, which is about 100 questions. You get 3 hours and 30 minutes and an optional 15-minute break after the 100th question. I recommend you take a break. You walk around, you get your blood flowing, you get your head clear before you sit down and take the next section. And then section 2, you're going to be given 7 or 8. Sorry, you take your break, and then before you do the second section, go eat lunch, go do whatever. And then section 2, you're going to have your patient cases, about 75 items, and you can get a break, 15 minutes. And you get 4 hours. So it's actually 9 hours for life. It's 9 hours. So, any questions on national boards? I know it's overwhelming. Yes.
How do you recommend studying for this? By sections?
I'm going to tell you in my next PowerPoint, but before we do that, I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to hand out these papers, and I don't want you to talk to one another, okay? I just want you to look at them. And one more, sorry. bunch of pennies on there. I want you to carefully look at the pennies and see if you can choose the correct penny. Now, you guys have all looked at pennies your whole life, most of you.
Okay.
Hey, I don't like this.
Can we scratch out what we don't think?
Can we mark it? Nobody can say that. Can we mark it? Really cost me.
Here, just look at it for right now. Know in your head what you choose.
Oh, no.
You have your answer?
Me too.
Actually,
Got it?
I think so.
Okay, I want you to turn to someone near you, across from you, whatever, and talk it over with them and see what they come up with and see if you can sway somebody one way or the
I know we got it.
Oh, look, look. Or does it have one song?
Yeah, like a G for Denver.
Look at Jay.
Yeah, they do.
What is this? Oh, that's good. I'll go with this.
Okay, who thinks they've got it? Okay. Tell me what you think. Huh? A. So how many of you think it's A? Okay, how many of you think it's B? C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O.
None of the above.
None of the above. No, that's not true. Okay, I forgot to look it up, but I think the answer is A.
What?
Okay, and so here's why I tell you, I do this exercise. How many of you drive to school or drive a car fairly regularly? Now, keep your hands up. How many of you know what your speedometer's highest number is? Put your hand down if you don't know.
It's bad. It's high.
Actually, I don't know.
Okay, so what is your highest number?
First thing, okay.
Oh, me? Yeah. 120.
Is that all it was?
Well, on my other car is 160, but dang, if you want more, 200. I mean,
Kevin, what is yours? 110, right? Huh? 160? Rachel? Mine is 160. 160? 120, Hannah? 120. Okay, 160. You're sure? All of you are sure? Yes. Okay. So here's why I tell you this. Because mere repetition will not get you the information you need in the long-term memory. So if you just keep doing it over and over and over again, you keep looking at pennies, you keep looking at the speedometer, but you don't know it, even though you look at it every day. You're not familiar with it. The way our brain works is it takes information out when you know enough to get what you need. So for example, if I held up a penny, you guys could all say, that's a penny, right? But you don't know the detail of it because your brain, if we remembered everything we saw, everything we heard, we'd be overloaded.
You'd be Bill Gates.
We'd be way overloaded. So what I'm trying to say is repetition, just kind of trying to memorize stuff, you have to be able to apply it and to be able to critically think, how am I going to use this information? That's how it gets in your long-term memory, because our brains have too much information. So when you study to apply it. Don't just memorize stuff. If you're memorizing stuff, you're not going to be able to pass. You have to be able to think, how am I going to use this? How am I going to apply this? Okay? So, how do we become successful in taking our national board? That was the question. How do we study? How many of you are downright nervous?
Oh.
You should be. A little bit nervousness is good.
Yeah.
Okay. How many of you are a little stressed? Yeah. A little stressed. How many of you are confident that you could pass? Okay. How many of you aren't sure? Yeah, go ahead, raise your hand. I'm not sure. I'll tell you right now, I probably could not pass that board now. Maybe I could critically think my way through, but I don't have all that stuff. It's been so long now. I mean, I know my general anatomy enough to function like a penny, like the speedometer, but I don't need to know that detail. So success is a science. If you have the conditions, you get the results. So what are you doing to have the right conditions? You have to have an expectation of your outcome. You have to have a goal. Again, I'm going to pass that board. And then you have to plan and you have to organize. How am I going to organize my study time? How am I going to plan? It's okay to go back over some of your old notes from your class. Like, for example, pre-clin. When you read through pre-clin, it's going to make so much more sense. Like before you studied so hard to get that in there, but now you've applied it and you're like, oh, that was so hard before, but now it's easy because you've been doing it. Self-control, what you have to learn how to master that and discipline yourself to be able to study and put the time in. And then attitude. So some of the stress relievers that you could do is share your stress, talk about it. That's what we're here for, faculty. That's what your friends are for. People are going through the same thing. Talk about it. Know the limits of what you can do. Okay? Don't set an unreasonable goal. I'm going to study 15 hours of National Board Review a week. Unreasonable. Okay? Make time for fun. You have to do that. Choose a cooperation over confrontation. So if you have a situation that's bugging you and taking up all your thoughts, figure it out, work it out. Create a quiet scene or a daydream or think about things that make you relaxed. And exercise. I can't tell you how important that is because it gets your blood flowing in your brain so that you can think. And you need to do that. You need to take time because so many endorphins are produced by exercise. Pamper yourself sometimes. If you want it, go get a massage. Go get a pedicure or a manicure. Do something. Be creative. Some of you like to do art. Draw, paint. Bless you. And then combine pleasant tasks with challenging tasks. Do some things that you like doing and mix it up with something you don't like doing. So how to constructively worry. Schedule a specific time each day to worry. And then get it over with. Okay? If you're going to worry about something, then Be done. I've already worried about it, I'm done. Write down things that you are worrying about. Think about things that are worrying, I don't know what that says. Think about the things that are worrying you. And when your time is up, stop. Stop. I have a little journal. The first thing I do when I wake up, and I've got stuff in there that I'm praying for, people, things, situations. And the other side of that journal, it has gratitudes. Every day I think of something that I was grateful for the day before. Okay? Because gratitude goes a long way in your attitude for the day. Endorphins are your feel-good hormones. We talked about those. So what ways to build those are laughing and smiling and positive thinking, exercise, some enjoyable situations that stimulate senses, being out in nature, receiving recognition for something, celebrations, birthdays, connections with family and friends. So standardized testing prep. Identify the areas that you need to study and check them off. So it can be determined by your class grades, like how did you do in that course? Some review sessions when you're reviewing or you're going over questions, you found out, hey, I really didn't get that many right on some of these homework assignments. I really don't know this section really well, so flag it so you know to go back. Get in study groups. And then we're going to be giving you a pilot exam. It's a mock national board exam. It's going to take you hours to do. So we'll set one of those at that schedule on November 25. And then ways to schedule how you're going to review. Find those major areas, do it, and then leave enough time to review for that same area as well. I think the more questions you're exposed to, the better you are. Because the more you see, then the more you know, oh, okay, that's how they're testing. Oh, I know, this is what they're testing. So going over as many questions as you can. Then it'll help you identify topics that you need to work on. Find weak content areas. Practice using good exam techniques, like reading questions slowly, and that helps to increase your speed. So here's the step-by-step on how to answer a multiple choice question. So first, read the question before you read the answers. How many of you read the answers first? Any of you? Okay. The second thing is think of your answer before looking at the possible answers. Your brain is an amazing thing. And oftentimes the first thing that pops in your head is the correct answer. How many of you are answer changers? Raise your hand. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you, most of the time, if you change your answer, most of the time you're wrong. Because the brain is like a computer and will pop in what it thinks is the right answer. The third thing is read all your choices and then get rid of the ones that you know, oh, those are distractors. Those aren't the right ones. And then take an educated guess and select an answer. Go with your gut. Don't change your mind. Unless you are absolutely sure, oh, I just marked that. I know for sure that's not right. But if you start going, well, and you start trying to reason in your head, you're going to reason incorrectly usually. So here's a couple of techniques for multiple choice. Be sure you know what the question is asking. If it's a not or a negative or an accept or the best or whatever, read it carefully, note the important words. Try to answer the question yourself before you're looking at the answers. You will be given a whiteboard to write on. No pieces of paper can be brought in or taken on your board. Find key words in the question, like we talked about, for that may be verbs or nouns or adjectives. And then focus on what the question is really, really trying to ask. And get rid of all the distracting things. So let me give you an example of one of those things. When scaling tooth number 14, the mesial surface of the distal root, what instrument would be the best choice? You see how much noise was in that question? Tooth number 15 is what kind of tooth? 14, 15, doesn't matter. It's a molar, okay? So your molar has 3 roots, okay? But I said the mesial surface of the distal root. What's Gracie?
A mini extended.
Mesial surface was the key, so you're going to use an 11, 12, right? But it said the mesial surface of the distal root. The distal root is just noise. It's the mesial surface, so you have to, because you see mesial surface of the distal root, well, it's the distal root, so maybe I should put 13, 14. There's a lot of noise in a lot of questions. Get rid of the noise and figure out what question they're actually asking. Here's an example. The texture of the tissue affected by chronic periodontitis is most likely to be smooth, red, fibrotic, or shiny.
Fibrotic. Fibrotic.
What do you think?
Fibrotic.
Fibrotic.
So those are your key words. Texture of the tissue, chronic perio, most likely. Because why? It's lost its stippling. Lost its stippling. And it's usually smooth.
Well, what does fibrotic look like?
So it's really
Hard.
dense, tough. So that wouldn't be an answer. But you see the key words? Texture of tissue.
Good distractor though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chronic perio, most likely. So if you can pick out the key words that they're looking for, then you can answer the question. Yes.
Or is it online?
It's online.
Are we able to like highlight things or?
Yeah.
It's only one.
Yes.
Are you able to like cross off?
No.
We have a whiteboard.
Exemplify spoiling us.
Okay.
So when I took my gauge, I did for the tutorial portion at the beginning of the test. For the tutorial portion in the beginning of the test, you can use that time to do the whiteboard and just write down 1 through whatever and just write A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, and then you can use that to cross off options as you take.
Yeah, and also you can flag a question. So if you want to go back to something, you can put little flags there and then go back to those flag functions. So here's another exam technique for multiple choice. Consider each option carefully. Compare your answers with options on the exam. So remember we said we're going to read the question, and in our mind we're going to answer that question without looking at the answers first, and then compare it. See if it matches with what you got. Because what's happening is, again, your brain's going to kick in, it's going to pick the right answer, or it should be close to the right answer. But now when you got those questions, like we just went over, you saw all the options, you went, oh. But you guys know that perio tissues are smooth because there's no stippling left on them. And you know those answers. But then when I told you, you went, oh. So you have to be able to kick that in. Note key words. Mentally on your whiteboard, label each option true or false. Eliminate false options. And then choose true options which best answers the question asked in the step. Pretend you're reading a text of a new language you just learned so that you can take your time to read it slowly to understand each word and comprehend the meaning of each word in the sentence. When you see words such as not, accept, false, Read every answer choice to assess it, if it is true or whether it's false. This is one of the most common test mistakes. Majority answers are detecting are the correct answer, but the brain is trained to recognize and choose a correct statement. So it's actually reversed. And about 10 to 15% of these types of questions are on your exam. Force yourself to answer true or false for each answer. So which of the following is not true regarding fluoride varnish? They are not easily washed away by saliva. True or false?
Not.
No, I'm just asking. We're going to
that
say
true
whether
or
it's a
false
true or
statement?
false statement right there.
There.
Is it not easily washed away, or is it? No, it's not. It's not. Okay. So an application requires less cooperation from the patient. True. Okay. Usually contains sodium fluoride. An application requires light curing. False. That's how you're getting true. So which of the following is not true? That's the one. That's the only statement that's false. Yes. So you have to break it down. Okay, read the question slowly. For example, which statements are true about the modified pen grass? Except. So the fingers form a soft C shape. True or false?
I don't know, stupid.
Okay, the ring finger rests against the middle finger.
True.
Yep.
The pad of the middle finger rests on the instrument.
Oh, not the
Oh,
pad,
no, false.
but the side.
Okay, thumb and middle finger are placed opposite of each other on the handle.
Pad of the middle finger.
That's this.
It's the index, the thumb, and the middle finger.
Yeah.
Pick up your pencil. Do you have a pen?
Look.
Some of the middle fingers are placed. Yeah.
Opposite.
Okay, the answer is D, because it is not the middle finger, but the index finger that is placed opposite from the thumb.
Oh.
Right? The middle finger and the index finger is here.
Let's do another one.
Okay, exam techniques for multiple choice. Another question. If you are unsure about a question, make a guess. Mark the question to review later and move forward. Don't waste a lot of time. So how many of you take an exam and you start off and you don't know the first answer? You start panicking, okay? Or you go to the next one, you go, I don't know that one either. And then you start thinking, I don't know anything. And you talked yourself out of it already before you get through your exam. Pick an answer, mark that you want to review it, and go on. Don't spend a whole lot of time on that question. You'll have about 20 to 25% chance of guessing correctly. So take that chance. Don't psychologically start struggling and then your confidence level goes down. Remember, it's that attitude thing I just read. Okay, review your answers before submitting using the rewind strategy. So start reviewing the last questions and go backwards instead of starting from the beginning. Because your ability to focus is usually highest at the beginning. So those questions you probably did okay, but as you got tired, then the ones at the end you're like, oh, just guessing. Okay, when you go back to review, go back and review from the bottom up when you're fresh. After you've taken your break or whatever you're going to do. Verify each question by reading your answer first and then the statement. So do it backwards. Read your answer and then go read the question and see if that still matches. And see if your thoughts match the keywords in the question. The clinician is measuring the distance between the maxillary anteriors and the mandibular anteriors using the probe horizontally. What is the clinician measuring?
Over check.
Over jet. Remember, a jet takes off horizontally. Okay. Jet takes off horizontally. There's another thing too. Oftentimes, they're going to put two answers similar. Probably, oftentimes, going to be one of those is going to be a distractor, and one of them is going to be the right answer. Okay. Use your knowledge when choosing the best answer. Compare your own answer with options given on the exam. Note the keywords. We kind of talked about all of these things again. The best answer. Use your time wisely. Don't spend so much time on one question. And the more questions you go through, the faster you'll get. Do not change your answer.
Do they recycle questions?
Yeah, they do. Sometimes. And they have to. It's too hard to write these types of questions. The only time you should change an answer is when you know why the first answer is wrong and why the second answer is right. Never change it just because you feel, I don't know. Good exam techniques. Use all of the above. Practice consistently until it becomes part of you, becomes part of your nature. So how to guess when you really don't know? Best to guess. Do not leave anything blank. You have a chance to get something right, take it. No qualifying words, universal statements like the always, never. Oftentimes those things are wrong because always, there's always an exception of some sort. And generally, usually, sometimes, those are usually true. Correct answers usually of middle value, not the highest or the lowest. So normal fasting blood sugar level, they're going to give you one really low, one really high, and kind of one in the middle. It's probably one of those. If very similar answers, choose neither of them. If there is only one correct answer, they both can't be right, so it's probably wrong. If opposite answers, choose one of them. The longest answer is oftentimes correct because they're trying to cover themselves to make sure it's everything. Choose the most comprehensive answer or the answer that includes the other correct answer. So you're going to get one more complete, the best answer. And then choose the answer option that is most closely related to the stem of the question. For example, if the stem focuses on a perio problem, then choose an answer that focuses on a perio outcome. If the stem focuses on a pre-treatment time frame, don't choose an answer appropriate for the post-treatment results. So figure out what they're asking. So get a notebook. It's going to be your National Board Review notebook. And I start putting things in there like the most common drugs that you see during the questions that you've been answering or your case studies. Concepts that are missed the most when you're taking your quizzes. What am I need to study this more. Write it in your little book so you don't forget. Make sure you are able to apply the answers. List the concepts to review before board. So some things you don't want to spend a whole lot of time, like stuff that is pure memorization, like sterilization numbers. Don't ask me why I know it's 121C for 15 minutes and 15 pounds of pressure. I just memorized that from my board 40 years ago. But it's in there. But don't spend time memorizing these and eruption dates from here. Just go through those reviews really quickly. And then your fluoride. There's often a lot of questions on fluoride. So your case studies are going to give you all of this stuff. We've already talked about it. Radiology. Yeah.
When they are testing the students on pharmacology, they're not using the,
They'll put both
Trade
names.
name.
They'll put both names sometimes. Oftentimes they'll have both,
both,
depending on what the drug is. But usually they'll have both.
but they'll always have the generic.
Yes. Anatomy, restorative, calculus, all of that. They'll ask you errors, stuff like that. So do I think you can do it? Yeah, I think you can do it.
Where do we get this photo?
You have it.
You have it?
You have it.
No, we don't.
They haven't given me this slide.
You have it.
No way.
It's right in this slide. It's in your PowerPoint.
You're in the middle,
Right there. Take it off.
It came through from,
AJ has more hair.
Your hair. 1 year, you already looked.
Okay, you can do that after class. Yep.
Are all the general, like, just quick fact numbers, are they on the first section of the test or the second?
It might be in both. Yeah, it might be in both. Okay, so I think most of this class is going to be online. Is my understanding correct? We're not going to meet each week this quarter.
show them the course schedule again. Based on the fact that Ms. Lee has the juniors in oral anatomy and lab, lecture and lab this quarter, I'm going to be helping her with this course.
That doesn't look right.
This, well, not the way it's actually presented, but this course is going to extend. You're going to get a grade at the end of fall, and you're going then to take the same course number again in winter, which will be face-to-face with Ms. Lee. And that will prepare you, that'll go from January basically to middle of March, and that's going to get you through the end of your reviews, which will also be face-to-face most days, either Monday or Tuesday next quarter, winter. But until then, we're going to do a combination of online and face-to-face. And so, of course, this is today with the introduction. The course syllabus is in Canvas. There's a couple of projects Ms. Lee will be talking about. Next week, we will not meet, but there is
That'll be a homework assignment.
critical thinking project that's going to be due, which basically is similar to a case study. So you start on that as well. And then the second or third week of the quarter, we're going to have that W of R. It's week of renewal, but that doesn't affect our afternoon class. We'll stop at 2 hours. Some case study review in class, so we'll figure for that. Then in the bolded, November 6th. Is this the right? No,
They're
these are the wrong
Wednesdays.
dates.
They're Wednesdays. So it'd be the 5th.
What happened?
It's a day off. So
Okay, that's what I took from your email. It came straight in.
This is 2018.
Yep, let me look at it. Hang on, let me do this. Yeah, look at this one right here.
oh, okay. That looks right.
Okay, now we're right. Where was the other one? It's still in campus? Okay, this is the one you want. So
Is
I
the one on
folded-
campus the wrong one?
We'll check on that.
I'll check on it.
Because this is the correct one. So we are meeting face-to-face on the 8th,
Okay.
the 22nd, the 5th. Dr. Saul's going to do your perio reviews. And these are the only times this content's going to be reviewed by us. Or other faculty. So if you miss those, you miss them. Other than what's in Canvas. November 19th, Ms. Withers is going to be here for interpretation review and radiology. The board is heavy in radiology, it's heavy in community, and these are courses that are going to make a difference whether you pass or fail the exam. We found that over time here recently. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about how the exam is structured, as well as what we term a criterion referenced exam. So the exam is evaluated often. We're not sure exactly how often, they don't tell us. Most likely at this time about every year. There are reviewers that test creators, the question writers, the statisticians are reviewing the exam regularly and looking for what they want as the minimum pass, which is 75% of the questions have to be correctly answered for you to pass the exam. You will not get a percentage if you pass the test. You will not see your score. You'll just get a P. If you do not pass, which we're not expecting that, but you would then get a report about the content, the numbers of questions that you answered incorrectly or not correctly, versus what the mean of the country is, versus the number of. So every content area has a certain number of questions in that section. And it could be, like you were mentioning, can be in the first part of the exam, or it can be in the case-based part of the exam. So they cross boundaries content. Yes.
So you need a 75% on each section.
No.
And it's not percent either, that's the wrong.
It's a 75.
scale
It's
score.
technically it's criterion reference. So what they're doing is they're saying, okay, on this content area, we know statistically across the years that this number is basically the mean pass rate for the exam.
Okay.
So you have to hit that number on these content areas, and the total then would be a 75.
Okay. So like you can't hypothetically get a perfect on everything and get like a 0 on.
No, you can't. No. Because what they're doing is they're testing questions as well. So they're inserting questions that might not count toward that criterion reference minimum number of correct. And they're seeing if they can statistically show that they're defective questions. And
So in
then
other
they
words, some questions
throw 'em out
that
or
are
put 'em
beyond there, they're not gonna count towards your score.
they're testing.
They're just testing the questions to see.
But
if
you don't know
they're-
which ones they are, and you have to answer to the best of your knowledge all of them. There is no final exam. Of course, the critical thinking project is the define that. Our pilot, as she mentioned, is a pilot exam that's cumulative of basically all courses.
So it's not just what some of these topics are. It can be community, because community is not even in here. It could be farm, it could be anything. That's fair game.
So you won't have a review over all the content for this first pilot exam. But you most likely had the majority of the courses already. I mean, you're now.
Does the student's success of passing this exam kind of correlate with their success in this program?
Pretty close.
Yeah, I would say yes.
It does. It's standardized. It's very reliable, predictable. Have any of you have taken either an ACT or
We all
SAT?
had to do that to get in, right? No? It was
Well,
SAT,
no, it's not a
ACT?
requirement.
It's not required?
But to go into college, generally it is.
Not community college.
Community college. Yeah. So standardized exams, the challenge with those is they are so predictable that when you receive a score, say you get an 82 on this exam, you don't know that, but I'm just saying you get an 82 on this. If you were to retake it, you would be probably within 1 percentile of that score again. I mean, that's how close it is. Unless you do something distinctly different to increase your knowledge and testing. So if you don't pass, we have a challenge because to get to the next percentile criterion reference mark, it's going to take a lot of work.
So here's an example. Pilot 1, I know, and I can figure out by looking at the score spread, I know that the bottom 1/4 are going to struggle to pass the exam if they were to take the National Board exam that month, that same month. So, but when we give you the second pilot next quarter, we hopefully can get you to jump up a little bit higher. And I can tell you and I can predict, like people that haven't passed in the past, they are usually at the bottom 1/4 of that. And I can tell you those people are going to struggle. And most of them have. So,
But the good news is with more practice, more study, confidence, obviously, and attention to this process. Since 2006, I think we've had a total of 6 students not successfully passing the first time.
okay, and I'll give you examples of some of them. The very first one that didn't pass was diagnosed with a brain tumor just before the National Board exam. Okay, so that was a problem. The second one that I can remember is it was a young mom who had a baby in the emergency room all night long,
The night before?
the night before.
Oh, wow.
Oh my word.
So exhausted, tired, stressed there. So there's usually circumstances for that. I mean, there's others that have gone through that. So when we look at these numbers, we're going, yeah, but here's what happened.
So if you were going to any other dental hygiene program, community-based, generally community college-based, even some of the BS programs, which are few and far between, generally you wouldn't have a review course, nor would you have any kind of study skill information provided, and most likely no pilot exam. And the reason for that is, we talk a lot about evidence-based in dentistry. There's not a whole lot of evidence that review courses change your outcome. So, we're doing this basically to get you projected to start thinking about, okay, I've got to sit down and review. And the courses that have been weaker for you, you need to spend more time reviewing. And I'm going to preach this the whole quarter. Those books that we've asked you to buy are Bibles in dental hygiene. Okay? We're not using books that don't apply to this profession. If you don't have them, if you're not using them to study from and review, you're going to be at a disadvantage. Because that's where these questions come from. This content, those authors are generally the ones who are writing these tests. And if they're not writing them, they're reviewing the questions for accuracy. So, Wilkins text, Bible of Dental Hygiene. That is, there's also an online component to that for questions. And Mrs. Hayden's going to be using that, special needs topics. And in the past, we were just talking this morning, most of your students were using it. They're not getting these questions right, but they are board-based questions for content and the structure of the question. The other one is your Neil Gearhart, the periodontal instrumentation assessment books. Those are used to write questions from that content. You're going to have the Mosby's review. No. Darby, that's a good. She's written, of course she's not live now, but she has written past test questions that will be on exam.
So what I've done is I put together a list of some helpful aids for you. There's a number of review courses, a number of ways to review. You can get some apps on your phone and review some of those types of things. I have some of these in my office. You can check them out. Let's see, I'm on screen.
And what I'd like to add to this, that's a great list. Mrs. Lee's compiled this. She knows these companies and the people. And this is fine, but they know more about this exam than I do or Miss Lee does. We have not been able to access this exam since 2006. The last time it was actually released. There have been no release boards for 13 years in the dental hygiene national board. And the reason they used to release them is so we could see, some of the older versions, some of the way they're doing the questions. They're not doing that anymore. The other thing is, we used to be able as faculty to go to Chicago. I went there 2 days after 9/11. Most of you weren't even born yet, but anyway. And looked at the exam myself. I wasn't able to copy it or anything, but you could actually see the exam. That has not happened since 2001. They've shut off all access to it. So if Miss Lee or myself were actually to take the board and we didn't pass it, that would be now our new score. And so you don't see a lot of faculty willing to go and sit and take this exam. In fact, they won't let you. Since you passed it, you passed it. So, and it's a confidentiality issue. It's an issue of potential plagiarism, things like that.
So anyways, yes.
Are we, so as far as like taking the exam, are we in charge of getting our own date and stuff like that?
Yes, but right now we're not going to worry about applying for the exam. There's a time in November when we'll go, okay, now we think you're ready, go ahead and apply.
Okay, but we all pick our own date and stuff like that.
I have a lecture that I'll put online, I guess, on how to apply.
Yeah, I'll tell you about it.
So I've just listed out a couple of these things. I don't know if you talked to your bigs before and they talked about going to a national board review for 3 days. Some of you like doing that, like to be face-to-face with someone and get the information, get the review books. They're great. I will likely be going to all of those ones. And Ms. Loomis, I think, is going as well. There's an online one that I'm pretty impressed with if you want to do that, and that is, the newest one is Student RDH. I know some students have been doing Crack the National Board, but your choice on, like, for example, Student RDH, Crack the RDH, all of them let you do a trial period. Try them all out, see what you like.
And the one for the things that you go to, it says in there that it's included in our cost for fall. Does that mean we still need to come up with the $300?
So what the deal is it's one of the line items in the budget, but most of you, or many of you, often spend it for either living or other things, and so you don't have the money to come up with that.
So you pull it out of your...
You pull it out.
Yeah, Louise Jones would be the one to ask for
DHA?
No.
What time is that?
DH seminars and DH Academy.
And that's 2018, so the date is not right there, but it's still the seminars.
Oh yeah, I forgot to get this date, but I got the rest of them changed. And I got the prices correct on all of these.
None of these are mandatory. We sort of highly recommend the one in Brea. Is it Brea still?
Well, both of them, the DH Seminar and DH Academy, both of those are really good.
But it is over a Saturday, Sabbath, and so obviously those of you who aren't going to review classes and things on Saturday, Sabbath, you can still do a Friday of that review, a Sunday, still get the material, and it's been effective. But like I say, these are professional presenters who obviously, most of them taught in dental hygiene or in similar settings, and they do not get to access the board either. So you sort of have to understand they're giving you an outline, a template to work from, and any information that they have is the same information that's in your candidate guide in the National Board website.
So one of the ways that you're going to get your grades, if you look at the course syllabus, is some quizzes, homework assignments, your pilot exam. There'll be a quiz graph that you have to put your quiz scores on there so that you can kind of see where it is. I'll give you samples of those on here. But there's also a critical thinking project. So I want you to choose a subject area that you feel weak in. So if you got an A in pathology, don't choose pathology, okay? I want you to choose something that you really have to focus on studying. And the critical thinking project, it can be a case study, it can be study stacks, it can be a teaching section and learn, it can be part of a teaching section and do a Jeopardy game, it could be that, and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but here's a couple of examples. So someone did a critical thinking project. You have to write an introduction for it, why you chose what you chose, what you do, how it works. She starts off with her pediatric case and gives you all the things that need to be. She gives you the situation, medical and social, dental history, just like a real case. What the chief complaint is, got radiographs, got your clinical charting, and then gives you the case right there, and then asks some questions on that. So that's kind of one of them, one of the critical things.
That meet was here last, you guys remember what that meet?
I think it wasn't in
I
here.
think it was your class. I think they got to meet her last year in the clinic. She was here doing
Oh, yeah.
teaching.
Yeah.
Assistant. Yeah.
In the way beginning?
Tall.
Yeah.
So here's another one. I'm just going to show you several so you get an idea.
Person's in dental school. She's finishing up, I think she's D4 or something.
She graduated.
Year.
Graduated. So she did hers on oral pathology. We have an introduction. In this presentation, you're going to ask questions about red lesions, and then she talks about whatever she did. Okay, give you an example. So it's like a little case. 50-year-old patient, numerous painful blisters, positive for Nikolsky sign. They occur in the mouth and on the skin. Though this disease can be rare, it is a serious condition. What condition does the patient suffer from? I guess I can't do this. So what do you think it's B? So you click here. And then she says, yes, it's correct. And then she gives you some pictures and she gives you some information about it. So this is a way for you guys to review. What's going to happen is next quarter, I'm going to have you post these so that you can go through each other's and help each other learn. Okay?
Now, I'll be talking tomorrow with your portfolio mentors, and they're the ones that are going to help us out this quarter and actually do a rubric grading of these by December 10 when grades are due.
So again, here's another enterocolitis, oral candidiasis, blah, 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 which enterocolitis can be treated with systemic or topical antifungal. So both are true, both are false, and these are types of board questions. So what I want is higher level critical thinking questions. That's what we're looking for. If you're asking me just basic questions like, what can you treat a patient with, what's the highest number you could treat a patient with the blood sugar A1C? It's 8.5. I don't want you to ask those types of questions. I want you to muddy up and ask it just like a board question. So how you're going to be graded on this is your topic. It's going to be on creativity, part of it creativity, part of it's going to be on navigation. Can I get through there? Whether they're high-level critical thinking questions. So here's another one. She does her introduction. She's going to give you a medically compromised and a periodontal patient. And she gives you a case, and then these are the questions, and they hyperlink all the way through. So question number 2 pertains to that. She gives you the synopsis, dental chart, FMX, and then she does it like this. Based on the radiographs, what existing restorations does the patient have? And then here are your answers. I'm just going to pick one. Sorry, wrong. So I got to try again. Yes, I want to try again.
All of them.
All of the above. That type of thing. Okay? So I want it to be creative. I want it to be fun. I'll tell you why. National Board Review is the boringest ever. So I want you to kind of make it engaging, make it fun, so that your classmates can really stay awake and get engaged in this. We'll be picking topics. So I don't know if you want to keep one of these, keep a list.
Yeah.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll keep a list. So if I say it's perio, what bugs and drugs are taken, then you can't do that. So it's first come, first served, what you think. I want you to take a good week to think about what it is that you want to do yours on. Where do you think or you could do a hodgepodge of questions. You could make a case, ask some radiology questions, ask some fluoride questions, ask some MedCom questions, ask some this.
Should we make up a case?
Or you could do mini cases. You could do maybe 3 mini cases and come up with a little scenario.
There's a new format that's going to be on the integrated dental board that I want to think about them using too, and I'll post that template. It's called a patient box. So it's literally a template that you insert information in as you create the patient scenario. So it gives you a heads up as to what stuff you need to put in there. And then you create questions against that information.
I'm going to do one more. Is this in the community? Okay, and she didn't do an introduction because I didn't require that before, but I want, so defining it, what different parts is, so she does a teaching section, different organizations, and then quiz questions. So everything is interactive, everything is kind of hyperlinked. I don't have a Jeopardy one up here, but a lot of people have done some Jeopardy ones. They've done Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. They've made their own study stacks, Quizlets. They've done Prezi. They've done lots of different ones for teaching. So get creative. I've had some people make up mnemonics, and they recorded it so that it's some kind of rap thing or whatever. However you learn it, what's going to make you memorize those things, go ahead and do it. I've had people write stories that help you memorize nerves and whatever else. So there've been a lot of really cool things.
Yeah, don't be afraid to go back into your prerequisites. Because there's a significant amount of test questions on micro, some on psychology, any of those key content areas, anatomy, physiology, the whole body, not just the head and neck.
Yes, I have an off-topic question. When do we usually take it, like the dates? Would you say like in May? or-
Spring break. Spring
Do
break.
we have to take it during that time?
Well, we'll talk about that, but once you apply, and you have to pay. So you apply and you have to pay or you're not registered. Then it goes through a process of approval by the department, me. And then I send the approval to the National Board. From there, they then send that approval to the, is it Prometric or Pearson View
Testing center.
testing centers, which are scattered across the country. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to take it in Loma Linda or Redlands. You can go home and take it if you want over break. So I give you a time frame. So basically it's from, you can't take the exam on a day that you're scheduled for clinic, classes, or labs. So it has to be a day that you can actually be gone. from school. So generally that starts about mid-March, up to 11th by the time you're done with finals. And from there, you get through the first 2 days of spring quarter. So most likely that's into April, 1st of April. The first 2 days of spring quarter, you as seniors don't have to be here. So historically, the exam was written. Everybody sat in a room, had it paper-based, and everybody did it the same day.
With
Across the
Scantron.
country, you know. across the
Scantron, we
country.
bubbled
Yeah,
in.
yeah. But now, of course, with all the electronics and it's great testing sites available and things, you are able to choose a date then and a location to take your exam.
So do the dates vary after the March 11th?
Through basically the first 2 days of spring break.
Oh, the first 2 days of spring break.
2 days after spring break.
Correct.
2 days
Sorry,
after
into spring quarter. So the Monday and Tuesday of spring quarter, you have off. You can have taken your board before that, and you still get those days off. You take the board on one of those 2 days. So you have about a 3-week time.
So
Yeah.
there's different people want to take it different times. Here's an example. Some people want to get it over with and take it in the first few days of spring break, and then they go and play. Other people want to study, and they'll take it right before they come back. And some are right in the middle. They want to play a little bit. They want to study a little bit. So we got all different kinds.
And we have, groups of students taking it the same day, and that helps to have some support. It just depends on how many test sites have open. Because it's not only the dental hygiene board that's given at these sites, it's all other allied health and
Nursing,
that,
everything,
LSAT,
DHS.
all this. So you're in competition with a lot of testing in the spring quarter. But it has to be done. before spring
Here's another
quarter
thing
starts.
that I didn't mention, but you must pass this national board in order to get a diploma from Loma Linda. So you can take your clinical board and pass, but if you can't pass this, you will not get licensed. So this is really critical. And a lot of people want to know, okay, I passed my national board, that's my hurdle, now let's go focus on clinical.
Yeah, and nobody can take a clinical board before May anyway, so it doesn't matter. And you have to have your national board written done in April, by the first part of April. So, we create a timeline for you.
I think you'll be doing a timeline in seminar with
Yeah.
Mrs. Ellington. Are there any other questions? I know it was overload. I was trying to cram as much as I could because I know you don't have class next week. Yes.
When will we get the schedule, the new one?
I have it. It's just not posted. I must have posted wrong. I was madly trying to do this afternoon.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened.
So
We've got
I'll
it.
look at it and fix it right now. But it's the dates right around there. Yes.
Some time for us to look at like the flashcards and
Yeah.
different options.
Yeah. Okay. And you have anything else you want to do?